A couple weeks ago on this program, we highlighted the joint effort of 8 churches in Columbus, Ohio, that will to open a school that will be open later this year. And will be one in the broader network of Christian schools being started throughout the state of Ohio. Now, that's an encouraging movement and one we hope to see grow across the country. But what happens when a church is prevented by local officials from doing the same and opening their own school? Well, one church in Somerville, Massachusetts, is facing overt hostility to their application to open a private religious school. Joining me now to talk about this is Andrew Beckwith, president of the Massachusetts Family Institute, which yesterday joined with First Liberty Institute in urging local officials in Somerville to allow the church to open a school. Andrew, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thanks for having me on, Joe.
Well, it's good to see you. What's happening there in Somerville with this school trying to start a church?
Well, back in September of last year, a large Latino church called Vida Real decided that they wanted to open a K-8 school as an extension of their ministry to the community. So they applied to do that, and their application has been reviewed by a subcommittee of the overall school committee. And really, the subcommittee has just been dragging their feet. And so we got involved. They reached out to us for help. And then we reached out to First Liberty. And we got involved when the subcommittee gave the church a list of 35 questions they wanted answered. And then as we reviewed that, we saw that many of the questions were really inappropriate given what the legal responsibility of the school committee was. And some of them touched on areas such as human sexuality that we believed showed an indication of religious hostility or anti-religious hostility, really, towards the church. And then that was confirmed in the 2 most recent school committee meetings, where members of this subcommittee really expressed overt hostility to the church and to the proposed school, and did so, in their own words, sort of on moral grounds. So you really have a clash of 2 different worldviews, 2 different religions, frankly, and that's just wildly inappropriate for a city entity to be doing to a private religious institution. There's a constitutional right, as you know, to have private religious education under both Massachusetts law and federal law. And we really think that the Somerville School Committee at this point is way out of line. We're hopeful that that will change. They have a meeting coming up Monday night where the full committee will be taking up this question. And we hope they do the right thing and approve the school. But we know there's definitely some hostility against the school on behalf of a number of the members, and it's very concerning.
Andrew, is there so much ignorance of the First Amendment and what religious freedom means at this point that there are a lot of government officials who really believe it's their job to screen out the so-called bad religions and help the good ones?
Yes, absolutely. We see that in various contexts. I'll have students in public schools reach out to me because they've tried to start a Bible club, and they're being told by even principals, oh, you can't do that. It's against the Constitution, violation of separation of church and state. Of course, that's totally false. Students have the right to start Bible clubs in public schools. It's crystal clear, and usually a simple email to the principal or the school committee or superintendent will clear that up. In this case, there may have been some initial ignorance. I really shouldn't speculate, but our understanding was that was cleared up by district council, who was present at both of the 2 most recent school committee meetings. And you can kind of watch him in one of the committee meetings try to advise his clients, in real time on the live webinar. It's how the meetings are still held, that they need to follow the law. Of course, he had to be delicate about that. But at this point, I don't think there's no excuse of it being ignorance, because one of the school committee members even said, I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror if we approved this school. I think it's the morally right thing to do to disapprove it, regardless of what the law is. And even said, we pay the attorneys. We have a budget line for attorneys. That's what they're there for. So at this point, they know what they're doing, and they just don't care.
It is incredible to hear them use this moral language, which they spent most of the last century trying to reject. And you're familiar with the old adage that you shouldn't attribute to malice what could be attributable to incompetence. And when it comes to the government, you can often assume incompetence. But in this case, it really does feel like they're comfortable with the malice and they think that's where they should be. But you, along with our friends at First Liberty, sent a letter to the school, the city yesterday, the school board. What
Correct.
did you tell them?
Well, we just laid out what the law says, again, so that there'd be no confusion. It should be essentially reinforcing what their own counsel's been telling them. And we also laid out with specificity some of these statements, again, public statements in these meetings that two of the school committee members have made and how concerning those are. And again, clarified the limited scope of review that the school committee has. I mean, according to Massachusetts law, the school committee has to approve or disapprove these applications for private schools. But the standard is, does the course of instruction proposed by the private school equal in thoroughness and efficiency that of the public school? So you can't, for example, force private religious schools to teach critical race theory or transgender pronouns to elementary kids or things like that. And frankly, the standard in Somerville is even lower because the public schools in Somerville are their standardized test scores are below the state average in every category for every grade. So again, here you have a church just trying to offer a ministry to its own people, to the surrounding community, to create a private religious school that's consistent with the morals and beliefs and worldview of their church members. And frankly, it'll probably be even better academically than the Somerville public schools.
Andrew, we've only got about 40 seconds left, but what do you see as the future for this case? Is this going to be resolved quickly?
Well, I certainly hope so. Best case scenario is that the school committee votes to approve the application on April 25th, and they can open up in the fall, which is their plan. If not, I think we're looking at what could be really a groundbreaking case, because if parents don't have the right to create new schools for their children, then we're in serious trouble in Massachusetts and the nation as a whole.
That's exactly right. We are in serious trouble. And for my money, Christian education is the solution to that problem. We're so thankful for the church there doing their part to make that happen. And we're thankful to you as well for defending their right to do so. And we pray for a quick and equitable resolution to this. Andrew Beckwith, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Joe.